good. So good morning, everyone. This is Danielle with the Motivity Podcast. First of all, thanks for listening. Thanks for checking in. I know we've talked a lot about security, but I think it's a topic that we can't talk about it enough because at some point in my life or your life, breaches happen. We can't avoid them. I don't think we're ever going to stop them. But how do we protect ourselves? Today, we're talking with Dean Archibald. He's from a company, and the company's called Calamu. But what Calamu does is really helps protect data and how you store data, and really has a unique approach of protecting the data if there was a breach. But before we get into what Calamu does, which is super exciting and so cool, Dean, first of all, want to say hi. Thank you for being on the show. Give us, a little blip about yourself.
Yeah, Danielle, thanks. It's great to be here. It's great to connect with you. I run the sales team here at Calamu. I've been with the company for about 3 or so years, been in the industry for about 12. I've had, the opportunity to work for a massive company with hundreds of thousands of employees to a small company with a couple thousand, a much smaller company with about 100. And then now with Calamu, I was employee number 12. We're fast growing, but we are really small, but making a really, really big impact, an important impact in the industry. But I love what I do. I love talking with like-minded professionals like yourself. So really excited to be here. Thanks again for having me on.
And Dean, that's a really good point, right? We're here to educate about technology. It's hard to understand. There's a lot of companies out there. There's a lot of unique offerings. And so us either working for a big company or what Calamu is doing is, raising money, right? So that's interesting. We're just here to educate and really help you understand what you're truly buying, and really solving certain problems, right? There's a lot of breaches out there. There's a lot of data. There's a lot of protection, but how do you pick a product and hopefully that gives education to customers, not only buying and then also deploying. But so Dean, thank you again, for spending time with us. You talked a lot about, kind of having this history, and working in information technology and in the security sector. What have you learned? What have you seen? How do you see, the market kind of changing?
Yeah, so I come from a deep history of storage. I'm a storage guy, I guess you could say, through and through.
Okay, where did you come from?
That's always been...
Which company?
What's that?
Which storage company? I always like to know.
Yeah, so I started with Hewlett-Packard, and I was there during the acquisition of 3PAR, which is kind of what lit a fire in me. 3PAR was really forward-thinking at the time, did some really advanced and innovative things, and then went on to Veeam Software, so I got into the protection side of things, backup and disaster recovery. Eventually landed at Wasabi, which is cloud-based object storage, kind of challenging some of the hyperscalers out there. And then now with Calamu, which is offering customers really unprecedented security through a really important and creative and innovative way of storing your data. We'll talk a little bit about that, I think, in a few here. But what I've experienced is that, and what I've observed is that customers are constantly looking for ways to protect the lifeblood of their company, and that's the data. Whether you're in manufacturing or in healthcare, if you're in the public sector, if you're a Fortune, 10 company, they all start to look at the world the same way, and they need to protect their number one asset, and that's their data. Whether that's compliance-related data, PII data, if it's intellectual property, there's just so much value behind it. And what we're finding is that customers are willing to explore new technologies. Where does the majority of that data live? It typically lives in some archive or, disk-based environment. And so what Calamu does is protect those workloads. We do it in a really creative way. And so it's been really rewarding for me to bring this message to customers, open their eyes to some alternatives to protect that lifeblood of their company. And it's been a great journey so far, just a few months in, but we've got a really bright future ahead of us. So what I've continued to see is that customers are challenging their vendors, their suppliers, to come up with solutions that truly address their biggest problems.
That is true. And keeping the data safe is what keeps, executives up at night, right? Dean, I know you're, a sales director, right? So you obviously are always looking for new talent. What's harder, meeting with executives or finding new talent? Knowing that we're in this crazy marketplace, right? We had the Great Recession happen, but then we also have, and I feel like certain executives that we're trying to educate them more, but it's hard to stay current. So what's harder? Is it getting in front of the executive or is it finding talent? Because, they're both interesting topics, I think.
Yeah, and I think both of those topics have gotten more challenging in the COVID world, in the pandemic world. Now that we're, post-pandemic.
Are we post? I don't know. So, let's hope so.
let's cross our fingers. Things have started to get a little bit back to normal, but what we found is that getting in front of key stakeholders within our prospects and customers is challenging. It never gets easier. Everyone's vying for their time. There is a lot of important new technology out there, so it can be easy to get lost in the crowd. So constantly trying to differentiate and bring value right out the gates in that first initial interaction is important, but it's tough. It certainly is tough. Finding talent. Well, I'm building out our first ever sales team here at Calamu, and it's tough. I mean, there's a major demand for top talent out there, whether you're in the sales world like myself and my peers, or if you're in the engineering side, the dev side. There's just a major demand out there in the market.
And you always need two. You need a good salesperson and an engineer to keep that salesperson honest. But to Dean's point,
absolutely.
We love people getting into this sector. Information technology sector is just great. There's a lot for you to learn, a lot for you to always, have knowledge about. Or if you like Dean, he kind of got in the storage side, and, I kind of lean towards the collaboration security side. So, I guess I always just kind of talk about, if people are listening and it's not an executive, hey, this is a great sector. There's a lot to learn and we need great people, especially people. And Dean, as you're saying, like, we love meeting with clients. Like, we're meeting together. We're face to face right now talking on video. But, if you have that kind of personality, maybe information technology for you or, anyone listening. Dean, you talk about executives. I just want to pivot for a minute. They're so worried about breaches, right? What have you seen in the marketplace? How have you seen these hackers get in? What do you feel like maybe is, a really open entry point? If you're looking at a big enterprise or I would think like a larger network, right? How are they getting in? What's happening? What are you seeing out in the field, and what kind of calls are you getting? Because if I was to be breached, I probably would call you. So.
Yeah, what I found is, a common thread through all the conversations that I have, and we're constantly meeting with C-level folks in our customers and prospects, all the way down to, the specialist admin that manage these storage or, security platforms. What I've found is that they all ask the same question when there's a security event. How did they get in? And then they quickly ask, what did they get access to? Did they get the data? Is probably the most commonly asked question or reflection that our customers have when there's something going on. And I think we'd all agree that it's no longer if, but when one of these security events occurs. It's just the world that we live in. So it's just funny, regardless of the vertical or the segment, company size, or what their charter is out there in the world, they all want to know, how did they get in and did they get the data? In terms of how they got in, there's a lot of entry points into a customer's network today. There's more applications, there's more devices out there.
There's more connected
the world
things,
is growing.
Right?
Absolutely.
That's a big
IoT.
piece. IoT is a huge piece. We talk about that a lot because they all need software upgrades all the time, right? So if you're not managing that, that's a lot to manage. Think about manufacturing plants, or think about, distribution centers, or think about hospitals. Like, obviously finance is more regulated, I would say, but I think to Dean's point, there's just so many entry points, right? Even in your house, think about your own home, right? You have Nest, you have HVAC units, you have all of those have software updates. If all those not running current code, that is an open gateway. Oh, here, come in. And it's hard to manage
even your dishwasher.
Yes, your dishwasher. Thank God mine's not electronic, that advanced yet, because I haven't bought one in the last 5 years, thank God. But to Dean's point, just, if you think about your home and now you take that and you times it by 10,000, devices connecting to an enterprise, that's why we talk about it so much, because the scale is just so large and it is hard. It's hard to protect the data, but that's what they want to get to. Once they get in, what do they do when they get in? They rest, they stop, right? Then they crawl, then they walk, right? I don't know. And that, I'm not obviously a security specialist, but it's not, I think we always say they're going to get in. It's where they're going to go and what they're going to do once they get in.
What they have access to. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Our founding team came from the world of data forensics, where, our CEO and some of his, it's really interesting stuff. I mean, getting hired by like the FBI to do,
that would be my dream
recon
job.
and cleanup work. So neat. Some of the stories they tell is amazing. And what they found is that the human element has and always will be a problem, right? It's that phishing email, and sometimes they're incredibly realistic, and sometimes we're even getting text messages now. Hey, it's me, the CEO. Can you run me a quick favor? Go buy, a bunch of gift cards and take a picture of them and send them to me. And if you're a new employee or someone that's in the lower level ranks, you can act in a quick panic and actually do that. And next thing you know it, you've either sent money to these bad actors or given them access to the lifeblood,
Dean,
the data of the company.
I just heard this story. I was sitting next to college kids that their professor told them to go out and buy the gift cards and put money on it. And sure they did. I mean, as fast as that person could sneeze, that girl was out. And, the advice that I gave, and you can talk to this scenario, she bought the gift card. Obviously, they probably got into her email. They're already in her email. And I kind of said, stop what you're doing. Don't worry about the email at this point. Go protect your assets. Like, go put on alerts on all your credit reports, close down your bank account, put the alerts on. Like, they're in already. So to that point, they're there getting the data. Protect now the data.
Absolutely.
Change the game. Like, they're in, it's happened. Okay, now you got to pivot and think, okay, whatever's in my email is there. So then watch the credit cards. Right? So I don't know if there's any other advice if anyone does get breached, but you're right. That link has malware in it. That link sprawls, right? That link then spiders out to your email. And that's what they want. They want the data in the email, not the gift card. I mean, they want the gift card, but if they could get more data, the better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So there's a lot of important technologies out there, and a lot of them are designed to build a stronger, taller, more reinforced perimeter around the network. Keep the bad guys from getting in. History has told us for 30 plus years now that building a better mousetrap isn't the way to keep them out. They can continue to build that perimeter up, but these bad hackers, these hackers are finding ways into the network. They're creative, they're smart. They'll go to great lengths to get in. So what Calamu does is we protect customers expecting the bad actors are going to get in. So we protect, the digital enterprise by taking the customer's data and turning it absolutely meaningless to bad actors, to outsiders, and only valuable to the rightful owners, the folks that work for the company, the folks that have credentials to manage that environment. Again, knowing and expecting that the bad guys are going to continue to find ways into the network and try to encrypt and hold you hostage for what they get their hands on. And that's ransomware right there. But if we were to turn all what is normally very valuable, complete files into digital sludge, meaning the bad guys only have access to millions, billions of ones and zeros, then the company really doesn't have to worry about all of the remediation work.
Correct.
If all the bad guys got access to was meaningless digital sludge, then you eliminate the bulk majority of the ramifications associated with the ransomware attack. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we do at Calamu. But let's be honest, there's nothing a customer can point to in their environment and say, hey, Calamu does that. Or Calamu is going to allow me to rip out this technology or eliminate that firewall or that antivirus. No, we work in conjunction. We're complementary to that. So think of us as an extension to all of the legacy and modern investments that you've made, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, from a security or data protection standpoint.
But how do you know what data what do the hackers want? What data do they want? And how do you know what data kind of to run through that process? Is it, the credit card data, the data, like what do they want? What are they looking for, Dean? Or are they looking just to take you down? Are they just looking to say, we want money? Like what are they, right? I guess because the data that you could hold the data ransom, right? You could hold, we're not.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. I mean, what we found and what the industry continues to tell us is that the bad guys are targeting specific companies, specific verticals and industries that either have a really high amount of revenue associated with them, so that if there is an event, that company, that enterprise is inclined to pay up big dollars, they're going to chase the big guys. Or if that target houses what's deemed to be highly sensitive data, either healthcare related data, financial records. There's a lot out there, and meaningful data means different things to different customers and industries. So it kind of depends on the agenda of the attacker, and if it's from a competitive standpoint, it might just be we want to take you down so that our friends or our company can gain competitive advantage over you while you have this massive benefit. So, yeah, there's a lot of.
Is it usually like a team of hackers? Like, is it usually 4 or 5 guys? Is it one guy? Is it, hey, they clicked on this malware, it's in. Does that notify a group of people? I'm more curious, about.
It really there's a wide spectrum of bad actors out there. It could be, the nerd in the basement, in mom's basement, just hacking to mess with
that better
people.
Not be my child ever.
Yeah, let's hope we're not bringing the next generation of those guys up.
Yeah, let's work with the good guys.
Also seen, right, is it's almost like a call center setting where you've got some folks that probably were the guy or gal in the basement, but they are educating, enabling, equipping the next generation, and they operate largely like a corporation, where they've got hundreds of people, in some cases, out there dialing, emailing, navigating into environments, and they're doing it, as a mass effort and having a lot of success doing that. So. I don't know what the figure is right now, but we're talking about a multi-billion-dollar industry for the bad guys. So they're getting sophisticated. They're taking all the resources they can get from the tools they use to the people they bring in to help them with their efforts, and it's scary.
Dean, maybe how would someone know that they were working for someone like that? Would they know, like if a person, got hired, is it obvious that you're working for a hacker? I know that's a little questionable,
Yeah,
I never even thought about that.
Great question. You raise a great question.
Yeah, like I'm
not
these
sure
calls.
the answer to that, but
yeah, like do you think they really, do all of them sit there and think they're legit trying to get your social security number or ask specific questions, or like, do they realize what they're doing? I wonder if they actually know the scale maybe that they're doing it at. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how I would go home at night and be like, yeah, I had a great day at work. It was awesome.
Right. But for some folks, money talks, opportunity presents itself, and they're inclined, to be easily manipulated. My question is, and I don't know why I thought of this, is will the ransomware group, the company, do background checks on the new talent? And are they looking for the guy or gal with a clean record, or do they get excited when they see someone with
right.
a bad record?
You're like, a jail just closed. We're hiring. Here you go.
Yeah.
or if like they got the ransomware, do you think they share it? Like, do you think that they like, hey, I'm getting hired. Hey, I get a portion of this if this happens. Like, is that like a sales thing? Like, the Social Security numbers, they got one, and I wonder how that even flows. If you get one, you get 10%. I mean,
yeah,
it's crazy.
I can't be too sure, but I know that they're highly motivated to go out there and infiltrate customers and companies, especially those with highly sensitive and critical data sets.
Yeah, don't work there if anyone is listening. So let's talk about your technology, and what makes it so powerful. I did get briefed, obviously. And I think it's pretty fantastic what you guys do. You did show me a PowerPoint if you want to bring it up. It does articulate what you do with the data and how you split the data. And then how does that become, some kind of code, and how it's so hard to put back together. It's kind of like my kid doing a puzzle and we lose a piece, but which I'll never get that piece back. But I don't know. Why don't you go into, if you have this sensitive data and, you want to protect it, how does your company come in? And, how does your company do that, right? From a technology standpoint or a software standpoint, what does it do? How does it jargle it up?
Yeah, so our product is SaaS-based. So we've got this incredibly powerful engine where we can take any data at rest and put it through this patented process that we have that only we're doing out in the marketplace today. And the outcome is that customers can protect their data by storing individual fragments in different storage locations. Let me describe that a little bit more. So again, we specialize in data at rest. This is data that's not in use by an application.
The data. So the data has gone, whatever that data is, it's in the storage containers.
Exactly.
It's gone to your cola, wherever you put it. And now, you got to protect it because God forbid someone got to that piece, right? That's pretty important stuff. So.
Right. And a lot of sensitive data is unstructured, is data at rest. It's, the W-2s. We just got done with tax season.
Ooh.
It's, financial records. It's plans and diagrams and, the secret recipe from the chef. That's all data at rest. And so customers are taking those really sensitive files, and oftentimes they're starting with what they call nuclear data, the data that is mission critical to them.
They call it nuclear.
And then quickly,
it's a good word for it.
Nuclear data, yeah. I think it kind of defines the criticality of those workloads.
I hope Google protects me from my nuclear data.
Right.
What's
your nuclear data?
My tax returns.
Probably a good campaign to run.
Yeah. It's probably my tax returns, my kit, my sensitive information. Yeah.
Absolutely. Everyone's got it, and it's a little bit different for everyone, but I think everyone can identify with what their most sensitive data is. So what we're finding is that customers, prioritize with protecting those data sets, those workloads, identify and recognize the benefits that Calamu brings to protecting that nuclear data, and then they say, let's go to the next rung down, and then the next, and the next, and the next, and frankly, I want to protect all my data with you, because even if it's not nuclear data today or highly, highly critical, highly sensitive data today, it could be tomorrow, right? And in some cases, they don't know what their nuclear data is. So they start with the identified, highly sensitive, most nuclear data. But the mission is oftentimes, let's expand that, let's extend that to all our data at rest.
Now you talk about SaaS, right? Software as a service. This is a service that they provide, right? Do you go in and tell them maybe what data is most important? Do you go in, can you look at the data? Can you advise them based on regulatory, advice? What data would have that nuclear, red hot label on it?
Yeah, when you talk to a CISO or a CIO or an IT director, oftentimes it's their number one mission every day to wake up and make sure that data is available and it's protected. So that's a pretty easy conversation to get into. It's pretty easy to identify what's most critical. And we start there. and we get them going with a test drive. That's our form of a POC or a pilot. And again, they quickly recognize the benefits of Calamu. We go through, when we encrypt the data, we fragment it, and we scatter those fragments across a bunch of different storage locations. That's where you get that element of digital sludge. And then they say, aha, we've got this other workload, or we have this other platform that we'd like to protect with you. So, there's always that super sensitive data set that they wake up every day trying to protect, but then, the conversation quickly takes us to more workload.
So Dean, just walk me through like a proof of concept. When you do a proof of concept, I would imagine it's more about like the files, the amount of files maybe that you guys encrypt instead of maybe the length of time. Because to my understanding, and this is just me interpreting it, once you put it through that process and you store it somewhere else and you break it up into four different storage areas, would a proof of concept just be the amount of files that you're running through your software? Or is a proof of concept like a length of time, right? Like, so how do they gauge, whether it's working or not? Because once it's broken up, how do you put it back together if you need it?
Right. So our proof of concept is identifying the use case. What platforms, what workloads are you trying to protect?
Got it.
Does it live on a laptop or a workstation? Is it in one of your critical file shares? Is it in a database, in a cloud native workload? And we've got some mechanisms that allow customers to attach that data and send it into Wasabi. It's a concept we call a connector. It's a lightweight agent. And so
that's how you deploy
testing
it,
for that connectivity.
Got it. I didn't know how you find the data or get to the data.
Yeah.
Understood. Okay. So that's another, we haven't talked too much on the show about, sensors, but we'll get into that. So that's a big topic of what sensors can do, what it can connect to, how much connectivity there is to get to sensors, how important they are. Anyway, yeah.
We believe that there's endless workloads and use cases.
Yes.
An increase in what is deemed, sensitive or critical or nuclear. And these connectors open up a world of attaching different workloads into the Calamu process. And so we take these connectors, we deploy them into a customer's environment. Those connectors send data through the Calamu process, which does, the encryption, the fragmentation, the scattering, ultimately lands on storage, and customer goes to reconstitute those files, bring them back. Hey, I need that W-2. I need that healthcare record. And our engine, is what we call the backplane, controls the set of instructions to piece it all back together, but also do so in a highly performant manner. We're talking, 50+% better performance than what you would typically get in a normal storage environment.
How long does it normally take to get storage? Let's say you send it out. How long does it usually take to get it back? Like, let's say you send your storage to AWS.
Yeah, it really depends on a bunch of different variables. What's the file size? What's the file type? What's your bandwidth going in? But if you kind of eliminate those variables, right, we're usually talking milliseconds. But with Calamu, we're writing to 3+ different storage environments. Again, think about the scatter process. We are running data in parallel as it comes back. So we've got multiple storage locations that we can pull from, and typically one is nearby in a close by region with good connectivity. We're not reliant on those other storage locations that might be further away. So we typically see 50+% performance benefits in doing a reconstitution when Calamu is the engine in front of it versus just pulling a file straight out of a hyperscaler's environment.
I wonder if that's because, these larger storage companies have so many customers, right? So getting to that data might be harder. And the Calamu is kind of bringing the connector, kind of like a token or a key. Hey, this is your key, right? We're scattering it, but the connector is there to do the work. So, I don't know, that could improve, the connectivity as I think about it. But
we we built the engine, with security first and foremost. We're a security company,
We
so
hope so.
this thing is bulletproof. Yeah.
Are we allowed to
But
talk
we
about
certainly don't shy.
where you store your software? Are we able to say, you work with cloud providers? Who do you work with?
Yeah, our engine is hosted in AWS.
There you go.
We're actually part of the AWS
Oh,
marketplace.
you are. That's a great. I was going to go there next. Thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah. AWS is a great go-to-market partner for us,
Yes,
and a
it
great
is.
technology partner for us. And yeah, the engine really is the special sauce. And so, when a customer goes to do one of these test drives with us, we're demonstrating the power and the capability of this engine, both from a security standpoint and certainly from a performance standpoint too.
Interesting. I didn't realize. So, people listening, usually, companies sign up with AWS, they sign these contracts, but you could pull, kind of like if you're shopping on Amazon, you go shop for technology through this marketplace. And so Calamu is on the marketplace. That means that you could retire, your spend and put spend towards Calamu. And it sounds like Dean and his team would get direct credit, or you would work through your AWS rep. So, do you usually work through a partner, or do you guys usually work direct? How does that model work?
So we've got both motions, both routes to market in place. I personally come from a deep background in the channel, so I love working with value-added resellers, MSPs, partners, distribution partners. Yeah. So we definitely lean into the channel.
Yeah.
It allows us to scale. It gives us broad reach. And there's so many different elements to a security strategy. We rattled off the antivirus, the firewall, MFA. Then you got the storage element when it comes to Calamu too. So having a partner that can piece together all these, disparate solutions and present them as a turnkey solution is compelling. And so we recognize that, and we lean in with the channel for that reason.
Yeah, that's a good point. And so in my position, right, Dean, so I kind of articulate those strategies and I bring in different partners if we do have, openings, right? So if we can't solve that problem, it's a benefit for manufacturers and I think of AWS as kind of like a manufacturer, that they bring in these other, smaller partners that could solve that specific use case. The customer is saying, hey, I don't want my data in one place. How do I break it up? I know this technology is out there. Show me what you got. And so Dean would come in and do that awesome proof of concept and say, hey, what are you doing with the data? Where are you putting it? Let us show you what we could do. So that is a great go-to-market strategy. I love that. And tell us some wins, Dean, about, some of your clients that, you solve these problems for and you've seen it work. Have you seen a client get breached and you guys were the stoppage there? Or the bleed out?
Yeah, we've had a few customers. We've had more than a few customers and prospects reached out to us because there was a security event. Yeah. And, all it takes is for one event to happen and, customers' behavior or at least approach to security completely changes. They're never going to stop building a taller and more fortified perimeter. That does keep a lot of the bad stuff out. But in the event that they'll get through and then they believe that eventually it will happen again, we want to have complete certainty that they did not get the data. So we have a lot of customers that come to us and say, hey, we're going to continue building the perimeter. We're going to continue with the firewall, MFA, antivirus, and we're going to continue to invest in that. But should the bad guys get in, we have zero tolerance for risk at this point. We need to do all we can. And we add an additional layer of protection for those customers. And again, we're complementary to the other things that they're doing, the other technologies that they've invested in. And going forward, we're a part of a more comprehensive security strategy. That's actually a very common scenario that we face with our customers and prospects.
That's awesome. I mean, it makes sense, right? Because you talked about everything that they're looking at, all these little pieces, and then you're like, hey, now let's get to the data. But you have all these certain pieces in place already, right? Firewalls, multi-factor, logins, passwords, all these protection layers. But now you have to get to the data part, which sounds like you guys are doing a great job, really, showing customers the value and someone articulating the story and orchestrating a bigger strategy. You guys, could come in and really showcase, what you guys can do. Anything else you want to say about Calamu? I know, anyone listening, if they want to talk to Dean, you could find him on LinkedIn. I'll have his information, in the notes of my podcast. He did give me a PowerPoint the first time we talked. So I did get to see it a little bit in action. I think I should use Calamu personally for my own data, but we could talk about that offline. No, but is there anything else you want to like tell customers about Calamu? Even, how to, do you sign up for a year contract with you? Maybe talk about the length of a contract, terms, anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a subscription-based service, and it's annualized plans. So you can move forward 1+ years protecting data with Calamu. We're incredibly cost effective. We'll take those conversations offline, but we aren't going to break your budget, which is important to note. I'd be remiss not to mention our customer obsession and our commitment to customer support.
Okay.
Yeah, so we recognize that this is a sensitive topic for customers. There's a lot at stake when it comes to protecting your sensitive data, your sensitive files, your critical applications. And so we enter into this journey with customers. We're not in it just to get a purchase order or, to retire quota. We're helping customers protect the lifeblood of their company, which is oftentimes protecting for the public sector constituents and important government functions. It's protecting, companies that have products that are focused on, helping
someone stay alive.
People like you and I with our financial needs. Hospitals, the list goes on and on and on. So the mission doesn't stop with getting the order in and going to sell this really cool technology. It's helping protect companies, the lifeblood of what they do, and their customers too. And that's really important to us, and it shows in how we interact with our customers and our partners, and the customer service that we bring to bear to help them with the evaluation, the testing, and then deployment, and then expansion with Calamu. So it's a really special, type of bond that we build with customers, and I think our customers really appreciate that.
I agree. We get up every day and we have these, I would say these heavier talks, right? They're heavy talks, and you see these pain points of these clients, and you're invested. You're invested in the, invested in the product. You're invested in making sure it works. You're invested if they got a breach, you're there, right? So, I lean into that a lot. I feel for you when you say that, day in and day out. It's information is key, and but the relationship and the trust that we have to build or we have to talk to is such an important factor, because you're asking the customer to trust you with their most sensitive. It's like trusting you with their baby a little bit.
Absolutely. We're working with them in their most vulnerable state. I just got hit, with a cyber attack, or, I am exposed and could get hit with a cyber attack. So it takes an element of trust. And, one of the most rewarding parts of my job is the bond that you can establish and you create with your customers and partners when you're in this line of work.
Yeah, I agree, Dean. I love my customers and would do anything for them. I talk to them even on, your days off, right? You'll still take that call because you want to make sure they're okay, right? So, they are a lifeline.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate that. My only question is, and I think one piece that we didn't answer was, okay, so, you have this proof of concept. I guess when you're thinking about it, you kind of need your security architect at the company, right, to architect this out for you. So you probably need a big trust commitment from that security architecture to you. You have the CIO, but then where does that go? Who kind of designs it with you? Is it a security architecture? Is the network architecture? Who do you like talking to, and who do you like working with?
Each opportunity, each project that we work on is a little bit different, but the common thread through all the projects that we work on is it's multidisciplinary from a customer standpoint, in that it's never just the security group, and it's never just the infrastructure group or just the application group. Oftentimes we get in with the security organization, as the visionaries for security strategy. but they're quickly bringing in, the infrastructure folks, the network folks, the application folks.
You need
And it
everyone
really
at that
takes a
table.
concerted,
You need
absolutely.
everyone. Please don't
Yeah, it takes a
pigeonhole.
concerted effort. It takes a singular plan, everyone rowing in the same direction.
Yes.
And when it happens, it's a beautiful thing, and they all recognize the benefits of, improved security posture.
Yeah. And to Dean's point, we've done this. He's worked with a ton of companies. So, get his advice, talk to him. Hey, what do you think about this? Who should be at the table? Where should I start my strategy? All right, I built this layer. I built layer 2, layer 3. Now I'm getting to the nuclear level, So, I think to your point, salespeople have a lot of experience, but we don't always want to tell you everything, right? So we always don't want to scare the customer either. So, but ask us the tough questions, get into it. We, as Dean's saying, they can bring a lot to the table and they can advise you many different ways.
Sure.
Dean, so as we finish up, and I love this talk, I learned a lot, and I keep learning more about, security breaches and what happens and when they're happening and how to protect yourself. But any last words or anything else you want to say?
I would just invite the audience to reach out. We'll provide contact information, I think, somewhere out there, but I'm darchibald@calamu.com. We love exploratory, informal conversations with customers and partners and consultants of all shapes and sizes. If you're a like-minded industry mind, we want to chat with you. So reach out anytime. We're looking forward to engaging with all of you guys.
That's awesome. Again, this is Danielle with the Motivity Podcast. We're simplifying the tech chat. We're bringing you new technologies so you could learn it here and help you understand how to deploy it, how to buy it, and hopefully you got great education because Dean was awesome. So thank you so much and have a great day.